Welcome to another fireside chat. This is the Cross Border Logistics Summit. I'm Thomas Wasson. I'm very excited to be chatting with Veronica Gonzalez. She's the Director of North American Surface Transportation Mexico at C.H. Robinson. We're going to be talking about some of the cross border challenges and opportunities. And so, without further ado, Veronica, welcome.
Thank you very much, Thomas, for having me. And I'm great, happy to be here. And as you mentioned, I started in C.H. Robinson back in 1995. So you can do the math, right?
You've been in the game for quite a minute and you've seen a lot of changes, and so I think that's going to be super helpful for our listeners as well because there's been a lot of recently tariffs and trade policy uncertainty, and one of the big conversations over the past few years has been the growth opportunities in these cross-border areas. So tell us a little bit of the background and kind of let's get a real quick around the world about the current situation, then we'll dive into some of the details.
Sure, Thomas. Yeah, well, I have been, 3 decades, and I have seen and help our customers to work through a great deal of challenges and shifts in the market. As you know, logistics is never boring. Always something going on. All this complexity around logistics can came from different factors, from trade policy changes up to natural disasters, right? So trade policy changes, I believe, have made the cross-border freight more unpredictable. So shippers are changing their behavior. They're shifting their sourcing and moving the shipping timing to manage tariffs. That's the reality. This creates a lot of swings on supply and demand, and this volatility impacts everyone, also the carriers, which are a key role on the logistics. So I believe navigating through tariffs on these days, that is one of the biggest challenges for shippers, is not just about compliance. I mean, we need to turn this complexity into an opportunity. So we're working very closely with the shippers so they can stay informed, they can adapt technology, and make sure they leverage the expertise to their trusted partner so they can, optimize their supply chain. Mm, Tariffs are not changing, are not going anywhere. We will continue to see these. And the more you are prepared, the less risk and delays you may have.
I think that's one of the big topics with the uncertainty is the certain part is that we are moving into a more tariffed world. And so it's a kind of a double whammy. We've got all of this movement right now and announcing of tariffs, removal of tariffs. Here's a deal, here's not a deal. But we know for sure that you want to make sure you have the right partner because this is going to become a feature and then it's going to have to add to some of the stuff we need in order to successfully execute these moves.
Correct. I mean, to select a trusted partner that can have the infrastructure to support you, I mean, the technology and leverage the expertise is critical, is crucial, from your partner in managing your transportation, the carrier infrastructure, you name it, the customs broker. This is a team effort, right?
And one of the big challenges I think is also security and cargo theft. Fraud is one of the evergreen issues right now. With post COVID, we saw everyone's getting in the business of taking things, and so talk about the security aspect, especially when we're looking at these cross border movements. I know there's CTPAT. There's a few certain things folks are looking for. For folks who are not as familiar, we'll go real high level, then we'll go into the granular. What's the kind of current state of cargo theft, security, and fraud?
Right. Well, for CH Robinson, our main priority is to mitigate, you know, the impact on our customers' freight. So yes, it's real. The security, we have deployed a dedicated team to address these challenges, leveraging our technology to really prevent fraud. That is a recent, a trending topic right now. And we are, in collaboration with our carriers, we need to secure their payment. So it's a must right now to leverage our technology. We are also strengthening our mitigation process so we can assure not to happen again. And cargo theft, as you know, it continues to be a challenge not only in Mexico and multiple geographies. And we're working very closely with our carriers, with our customers to make sure we share the information, we share the trends in advance so we can plan properly and we can set up these security protocols more efficiently depending on the region where the shippers are.
One of the big things, especially I've been doing trucking for since 14, but one of the challenges is cargo frauds and thefts between the cross-border transfers. Are we adding things to the trailer? Are we removing things? Given these larger trends, has there been any recent changes in the fraud and security game? I know in the North American US side, we've seen a lot more sophistication in terms of how these fraudsters are operating. But on the cross-border one, has it been more of the same or just more of the volume? Talk about some of those trends that, or is it just a general problem all across North America?
I think it's a general problem, but specific to Mexico and to the border, we have seen an improvement on certifications for our carriers. So CTPAT, OEA, in Spanish version, these two certification make sure to minimize any cargo theft, and improve the security on each of the carriers. So it's very important to make sure these our carriers we work with have these certifications. And I've seen, in the last 5 years, more and more carriers, mandatory applying to this certification, which has improved significantly.
And when we're thinking of the certifications, are those coming from like more shipper driven, the other carriers, the intermediaries? Is this something where we're seeing who's kind of spearheading and championing this effort in terms of where we're seeing this focus?
Yeah, I think it's the evolution of the market. So everywhere I've seen from all sides. As I mentioned, it's a effort, team collaboration. Yes, obviously the shippers, it's mandatory for the majority of the shippers to count with this certification, but this also improves and benefits the carriers to avoid these type of situations. The more you have this certification, the more you are secure to prevent circumstances.
And wanted to dive into infrastructure, talking about especially the land borders, or I think they've been referred to as land ports. But one of the things, of course, is congestion, border delays, if there's building. Has there been any big movements on that? I know there's been some recent news stories about maybe expanding the bridges, expanding the lanes, but talk about the infrastructure side because that can be just as critical in a lot of these handoff situations, unless you're doing door to door.
Exactly. Yes. Well, since 1994, since the NAFTA, trade started, we have seen a lot of evolution, right? But recently, I can say the last 10 years, we have seen a lot of investment in infrastructure across all the borders, starting from Matamoros all the way to Tijuana, to TJ. And the challenge here is that the increased demand is growing so fast that sometimes even with these improvements it's hard to keep up. But there's infrastructure, there's a lot of plans. For example, on the World Trade Bridge, there's expansion on lanes coming soon. I believe it was next year. We also have seen improvements on the customs facilities, more bridges in small ports or borderlands that never before. I mean, I think the infrastructure is there, yes, but we continue to see congestions anywhere. And it's not only about, infrastructure. It's different factors that can affect, but congestion is real and it's a consequence and it's part of the success of this increase on demand on the market. But infra- infrastructure, we see investment from public and private sector. At CH Robinson, for example, we have been investing heavily on the cross docking and warehousing all across the border to support the customers when they have these, congestions, and make sure they are ready on the US side or on the Mexican side to continue and meet the delivery windows.
I think you brought up a great point. When I managed drivers, the challenge was I'd send the driver down to like Laredo, but then we're waiting for it to cross, or we're waiting for the paperwork, or it's made it to the warehouse, but now it's stopped for something because it needs the paperwork and I can't load you yet. So one of the infrastructure challenges is not only just the bridges and the thoroughfare, but you've got to have the handoff points, and then you need to have the partnerships with the handoff points so that way you can speed it up. Because that was one thing that really blew my mind was, that can cost a few days. And if you're a carrier, if you don't time it just right or a handoff messes up, it can be it can real slow you down.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you remember and it's not only congestion because the infrastructure, you can have a natural disaster. I remember once in Laredo, we had a tornado in the customs facility. The tornado hit the customs facility only, and it was crazy, right? That week. But we can, we have also on this infrastructure, you need to, as a shipper, need to be flexible also to work with different borders, and have this infrastructure or flexibility to move from rail to truck, from truck to rail, because it can be also congestions at the rail. I mean, and so this flexibility and agility can help you to navigate through these changes.
And one of the aspects to help speed that up is technology. And that's the cool thing I'm hearing about is digitization of documents, helping get things to people faster. I had no idea how complex it was till I talked to a customs broker, and it's like you're talking with three different people on a group chat because everyone needs their ducks in a row. Is that one of the things? I guess has it been kind of a recent phenomenon, or talk about the technology aspect? Because I think at least I've been doing this for maybe 4 years in media, but it does seem like there's been a big upspring in terms of folks showing off that, hey, we can finally track things compared to the past where it's like you got your hand, you have your documents. Oh no, you don't. Let me fax them, and then like 3 days later, you're just stuck in limbo.
Right. I mean, and with the technology right now, I mean, you don't have any excuse, right? We are working, we have a team with a deep customs broker expertise, bilingual staff that we are working with the customers to ensure that they are adapting these tools to digital tools for streamline their paperwork. I mean, these will be create a better pre-clearance process, not to wait until the truck gets to the border. I mean, we can pre-clearance even if you are, I don't know, sitting in Monterey. It, and by the way, by the time you get to the border, it's already clear. I mean, it's already ready to be cleared. So we need to make sure that our shippers are adapting this technology to avoid delays and make sure they are leveraging the expertise of their partners, and the communication right now it's in seconds. So it's the more you are informed, the more you anticipate, because we have seen also in the past, like every minor mistake on the documentation can create a big delay. So this applying technology to your paperwork will improve and minimize risk on your process.
And the technology also directly impacts finding the right capacity. So we've seen a big increase with nearshoring. There's been a very large focus on folks are building in Monterey and other locations, and they're shipping them up. But trying to find the capacity who's able to haul that seems to be another challenge. Let's talk about finding, validating the right carriers. What's the capacity element as well?
Right. I mean, and this type of, uncertainty in trade also brings some complexity and capacity. And capacity has always been a major factor on logistics. So yes, for sure, finding and validating the right carrier for your business is crucial. I mean, you need to have a list of requirements, validate that the carrier is reliable, that they have compliance in the regulate with the regulations, as well as what type of certifications do they have, what is the infrastructure looks like for them, because they will help you on these disruptions. If they have, they can operate in more borders at just Laredo or just McAllen, right? You need to find the right capacity for your business, not only on the standard times, also in the ones that is a disruption going on. But for sure, and I think the carriers have done a lot of evolution during the last years to be up to speed, to be with the technology, with the real time tracking visibility, with their GPS. They have the three shifts to support your operation 24/7. So it's a lot of cares that you can work with.
That was one of the wild things I had a conversation last year about was trying to get carriers to adopt visibility tools. A lot of folks were saying they still used WhatsApp and they were communicating with the carrier and the customs broker and they're all on a WhatsApp chain or something. And it's so fascinating because in North America and the US, everyone has an ELD. Everyone's sharing telematics. We have specific things. But then on the cross border, there's been a whole lot of movement where the adoption of technologies getting caught up to speed has been a real big push.
Yes, and that's what we are working very closely with our carriers in these years. Adopt Up technology, we have a carrier app that they can connect directly. I mean, there's no need. Yeah, if they want to continue to send WhatsApps, is fine. I think it's cultural more in Mexico, but I think it's the real time visibility with the connectivity with the GPS is critical. And yes, it's more complexity in Mexico because remember we have the Mexican carrier, then the bridge crossing transfer, then the US. So interconnect those three GPS, it's a challenge, but it's not impossible. And we are doing it with our carriers.
And I think finally the value also lies in people and culture, especially having the right people set up. A lot of folks are moving operations in Mexico, Mexico City, having people boots on the ground. Um, Adds into the complexity of the capacity challenges. It really does feel like you have to gain the trust of a carrier, and then you may get referred other carriers because compared to at least when I was a freight broker in the U.S., I just went down a list and I called some people. In cross border moves, it really does seem like you have to have established relationships just because of all these extra complexities compared to just traditional U.S. based freight.
Correct. I mean, it's a collaboration partnership. I mean, here you need to we see our carriers every week in person. It's not just a Teams meeting. We visit their facilities. We talk about, what is coming, what are the plans, what are their plans on investment on more yards. So building relationship in with customers and carriers is critical. Uh, is a critical part of our, logistics.
And looking ahead, one last question as we're looking over the next 6 months to a year. Are there any big topics or trends that you all are watching that maybe folks should pay attention to, or any early developments as we're continuing to watch these broader changes?
Sure. I mean, as you know, all customs, all regulations will continue, all disruptions and complexity will continue. So we don't see it more than the news. There's recently last week about the whole of visas for truck drivers. Well, we need to evaluate the impact. We don't know yet the length of these, how it's going to happen. But overall, I think we will need to continue to adapt to change any manner. I mean, we will continue to see, you know, growth on the market. We continue to see growth on the exports out of Mexico, and the activity will continue. So make sure you are planning properly, prepare to any other disruption because rules will continue to shift. And since now is the trending topic, I think if you have a compliance team, strong compliance team in your office to assure that they're going to navigate through these, they will help you to go through these changes. The more prepared you are, the less risk and delays you will have.
Well, Veronica, thank you so much for hopping on and talking with us today. If folks want to learn more about CH Robinson or specifically, your Mexican operations and cross border moves, what's the best way to get more information?
Sure. I mean, we have in our webpage, chrobinson.com, and you can find me in LinkedIn at Veronica Gonzalez. And it's really our main purpose is to support our customers to this cross-border freight, to do it, minimize risk, make sure they have the right provider.
Well, Veronica, thank you so much for your time. We'll definitely have to catch up again soon.
Thank you very much, Thomas. Have a nice day.
That's going to be a wrap for this fireside chat, but don't worry, we have a lot more content coming up here on this cross border logistics summit. Stay tuned.